I told you before that in demo books, I try my best to make the most mistakes I can. So the first thing I'm gonna do is show you some of those mistakes. One is really obvious, right? This little corner situation happening here. You don't wanna have that. A few are a little less obvious. So for instance, here, you can see that some of these are getting longer than others, right? If you look really closely. When you sort these out, again, you only need 10 pages per book. Take them out of the selection. So I'm gonna go with the pages that match each other the most. Few other things while we're flipping through the pages. The line marks, right? The pencil marks need to be erased. So that'll be something you'll do first. White eraser is fine. Pink eraser is fine too, just so that they're not there. White eraser is probably the preferred way to do it, but that's being a printmaker more than it is being a bookmaker. So I'm gonna go with pages that match a little bit better. These two have, those three have a little bit of a tag at the top, so I'm gonna see if there's an even better version of it. Very interesting noise.
It's the blinds.
Is it the blinds? Oh, they're getting sucked out the window. I see. That's wild. Yeah, thank you, Fear, because otherwise I'm just gonna sit there and think about it forever.
I don't really know what to do about it, I'm gonna be honest.
It's fine. Oh, maybe, yeah. There's a pull tab on the other side, and you have to pull it the opposite way. It's very awkward. This one. Thank you. 3, 4, 5, 6,
Every single
8. We need 2 more.
pair of blinds is different.
Yes. For the longest time, I'm the kind of person with ADHD that I can't remember how to open a doorknob. I just can't. It doesn't matter how many times I've opened that doorknob before in my life. And there are some doorknobs in this world that I'm like, why did you do that? One other thing I'd like to point out is there is a smooth edge to some of these, right? Because it's a manufactured edge is what we would call it. It doesn't have a decal. If you wanted to put a decal into that edge, you could theoretically, but you would do it before we get to this point. I'm not worried about it because really and genuinely it's not that big of a deal. If it is aesthetically upsetting for you, you can take it out. I'm more upset about the mistakes I made with the tags in the corner. So I'm picking between those two, which one is more important to me. Generally speaking, these little extra tabs are more important to your general craftsmanship. I'm gonna take this little tab off, and there are 2 ways you can do this. You can take actually the paper tear and pull it, or you can do a slightly easier thing and just cut it. But you wanna make sure that you don't cut any other part of the decal, because you do still wanna keep that. And then it's a little less noticeable, significantly less upsetting. Less of an issue of craftsmanship, right? I do still have a little bit of a uptick in this one, but we're not gonna sweat it for the sake of, again, demo book. So, the next thing we're gonna do is go ahead and measure our cover. This is the paper version. I recommend you start with your paper version so you go through the mechanics of making the book before you switch to your more complicated version. But in this case, what you want to do is try and measure all of the pages that are going in the book, right? So if you want to, you can have them clipped together. That's fine. I'm just gonna hold them. And I wanna make sure that the edges of this go just slightly, and I mean like 32nd of an inch territory, over the decal. Okay, you want to protect that decal when you're storing the book with the cover. Okay, you can use a straight edge for this, a ruler if you want to. I'm just going to go along the edge of this decal and trace it first. And I'm doing this really gently because I'm not trying to crush the decal. Okay, And you'll end up with a crooked line when you do it that way. So what I'm gonna do now is go back to it with a straight edge, which I've buried over here. Thank you, Thea. I actually prefer that.
Yeah.
Thank you. So what I'll do is on a cutting mat, kind of line it up so that the corner is where I need it to be. Try and line this up to the closest relevant line. Go a little bit over your drawn line, again, because you're protecting the decal with this edge. And then straighten it out. And that'll be the line you follow, the straight line, not the crooked line. I'm gonna go ahead and do this side too. Try and keep things as straight as possible. Just because otherwise you'll end up with a little bit of a waver, and those wavers are really noticeable in this style of book. Okay. All right. Do you see the kind of difference there? I'm going to go ahead and cut this way. Before I cut, I'm going to measure to make sure that it's all the same. You can make a tiny little tick on the ruler if you need to. Make sure you erase it before you hand it off to someone else so that they don't get confused. Okay, I've got a tiny bit of a taper here. I'm gonna leave it since it's a demo book and I want to show you what that does. But if you had that tiny bit of taper, you would go in and adjust for it and fix that line so that it doesn't taper inward. It is really noticeable, even though it might not seem like it would be on papers like this. The other thing is, I know overall that this is a 12-inch piece of paper, so I'm gonna try my best to follow this line as straight as I can all the way up. And in fact, would you mind handing me a longer ruler, please, Ty? Thank you so much. You can also use the rotary cutter for this if you don't want to do this by hand. The actual, like, real rotary cutter. Not that these aren't real, but... Ooh, I'm doing a bad job, yay! So, instead of forcing it, see if it'll break itself off. In this case, it's not going to, so we're gonna have to measure it again. I appreciate having to use one of these. So note that some of these are warped. Okay, you see how I can't lay it all the way down? So if you can use the metal one, do it. I have a long metal one in the closet on the very top shelf. So if I forget to bring it out, please remind me.
Just grab it.
Oh yeah, please. And that one shouldn't be as incongruous. We've done a terrible job already.
The smaller little one.
Ooh, good. Thank you. So, if you do as bad of a job as I did, I can't abide this. This is upsetting to me. I should leave it on there, but I just can't do it. I'm going to take that from you, actually. Okay. I can slide that one right here. Thank you, Fear. It is. It's very like, yes. Aluminum thunder. Okay. It's a good idea to peel up that excess before you move the ruler, too. It's a little bit better, but still wrong, so we're good. Okay. And then I'm actually just going to cut this in half. Let's see if I can do this wrong, too. Let's try. Okay, maybe not. Anyway. And then you'll have roughly, hell yeah. Okay, sorry. Roughly, it should be the same size. This is wrong, right? So, it's very fun to make a book the wrong way. Um, now I kind of get why my professors used to be like, and this is wrong. And you would look at them like, okay, you're a crazy person. Which, you know, probably true, but. So you want to make sure you double check that everything is fitting properly. If this happens to you, cut more, right? Get a new sheet. I'm going to proceed. But you see how we've got a little bit of coverage for the decal, right? There's not the decal right up against the edge. If your decal ends up right here, you can see how over time it's going to get damaged, right? Especially if it gets, once in a while you'll have a decal that is more like this, right? You don't want this. You want to protect your decal with that paper, okay? All right. Anyway, I'm delighted. So the next little bit that I'm going to show you is specific to making the holes, okay? You don't move straight into making holes. You want to make a template first. So I'm going to take a little bit of one of my like cruddy pieces of paper. I'm taking this because it's stiffer than anything else that I've been working with. This is a little bit looser. This is stiffer. You can hear it, right? And what I'm going to do is keep all of this clamped on the opposite end of where my binding is going, okay? I'm going to put my binding on the opposite end of this because I want to show you how this gets damaged over time when you have an exposed edge. It doesn't have to be absolutely perfect in this particular moment. The main thing you're looking for is that the top is aligned properly and that all of the pages fit inside of that cover page currently. So from here, you can cut this down to make it precisely the same size if you would like to, or you can just note it. The faster way is noting it, so that's what I'm going to do for you and the sake of time. I'm going to do that across here. Let's actually see how much this is, now that I think about it. So about an inch down on each side, perfect. It's gonna be so easy to do. All right. So that was two different ways. Sorry, I should have narrated what I was doing. That was two different ways to do it. You can either lay it on top, use the measurement of the board, or you can put the literal book on top, right? This is something you would do if you really believe in your measurements. I do not, because I know I did them wrong, right? So I wanted to make sure one side was appropriate. And then again, I'm gonna double check just to make sure this fits more or less. That's what I thought. And then I'll adjust that. Ooh, that is hard. Okay, don't use these erasers.
Do you have better erasers?
I do, but they're not here, which is not helpful to anyone. So if we can be nice to each other and share erasers for now, and then I will bring some next time.
Are you still having,
John.
John bring a drill?
Oh. Yeah, I'll also add that to it.
If you're still
I am, yeah. So, in this case, so I'm gonna pull up the instructions so that you guys can read them a little bit with me, so that if you're doing this after class, you also know what they mean. Has anybody taken a look at these yet?
Yeah.
Did they make sense?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, I've done them before, so.
Yeah. Anybody else had a little bit of confusion? there's some terms that they'll tell you that you're like, what? So I want to kind of walk you through it. So in the first little section, it starts talking about essentially the measurements that you'll need. So 4 sewing stations, 3/8 of an inch from the spine edge. That means they are 3/8 of an inch from, this is the spine edge, right? This is what I'm lining up to actually sew into. So 3/8 of an inch in from there. I'm gonna go in further because 3/8 of an inch is going to look like, yes, more or less this,
Oh, okay.
right?
Do we have to
Um,
do horizontal?
Yes,
Okay.
that's the tradition of the Japanese book. Yeah. Just at least for one, if you can make the other one make sense, that's fine.
We
Okay.
can do one horizontal.
Yes, I think I'll accept that.
Okay, just good
As
to
long as
know,
you do
'cause I
the-
missed that, yeah.
Yes. So I'm gonna go for mine. I'm gonna go. What feels right? 1/2 inch. Yeah, let's do 1/2 inch in. Okay. I'm doing this so I remember, but I'm also gonna do it on the template. The station 4 is 1/2 inch down from the head. When we talk about the head, we're talking about the top of the book. Okay. Stations 2 and 3 are equally spaced between. That's pretty self-explanatory. And then the bottom station should be 1/2 inch up as well. So the most logical way to do that is to measure in first. Okay, so we've got 1/2 inch in that we're doing. That's probably fine, actually. Okay. That's where I know I'm going to have my sewing lines, right, relative to the edge of the book. So you could call this the edge, okay, up here. Really, it's good to just write which side up, although it should be equal either way. Then we're gonna move in. We'll do a 1/2 inch here too. Okay. And we'll move up 1/2 inch as well. What you're basically doing is creating a system in which you honor the crosses, right? So the cross sections. So this line isn't important anymore. This line isn't important anymore. These are the lines that I care the most about, right? The top and bottom. Those are gonna be my 2 all points, okay? Then I need 2 more that are equidistant, right? From these and from each other. So I'm gonna measure this, and I'm roughly at 3 1/4, a little smaller because I cut this wrong. You should be around 3 1/4. This is also a good way for you to know if your measurements are wrong, right? I'm going to divide that. You can do the math if you want to, or you can eyeball it. Perfectly fine. Either way. I'm not going to give you a really hard time if everything's not precise, right? So I'm gonna go, wow, this eraser, man. I'm gonna go, for the sake of time, we'll go with 1 inch from each. And then move from there. This is the eyeballing method. So this is what here. Okay. And one. Yeah, these are the 16ths, so wow, look at me not counting. 1, 2, 3, 4. if you feel pretty solid about the measurement you made, you can go ahead and line it out. Okay. That is my template. Okay. I could be more precise. These aren't actually equidistant, but they are relatively close from each side. They're equidistant from these sides, but the space in between, as you can see, is a little bit larger, right? So I should probably move these 1/16 of an inch in, but I'm not gonna sweat it for the sake of a demo, because I'm doing it wrong, right? So, I'm gonna send you all off to do this, okay? Make your template however it needs to be, make your cover however it needs to be, and then midway through class, we're gonna come back and we're gonna talk about sewing,